I want to read you a verse out of Ecclesiastes. It says, there was a man all alone. He had neither son nor brother. There was no end to his toil. Yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. For whom am I toiling? He asked. And why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless. A miserable business. Two were better than one because they have good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. And if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. And I thought, what would be a good idea of what you could see of what the body, what we look like? All right. When we're a Christ follower, we are centered. Jesus is our center. It's not about Blue Ridge. It's not about anything, but it's about Jesus. All right. And through that, our lives are interconnected because we have the same Spirit flowing out through Jesus into our lives. All right. But this is what happens. All right. I want to give you an idea. As I was going through this, I thought about guys that used to be a part of this group for years, and they've disappeared. And I thought about, I just went through the stories that I've helped write for baptisms lately. And I thought about Keith Taylor. He's no longer around. And I thought about Ben Sarver. And he's no longer around. And I thought about Larry Beasley. Black guy who took his shorts off right up there at the thing. His dad's around. He's not around. Thought about Jay and Mindy and Scott and Marla. Gone. And as I thought more and more about that, what if I were to tell you that in a year, at least 25% of you will not even be here? What happens when Dave disconnects from community? If he's not connected to anybody else, he's disconnected. He's standing out there all on his own. What happens when Dan's struggling and nobody knows? And he's just standing there, all alone. Go back and read those verses. Cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. What happens when Hank was gone for a while? He was gone. Wasn't around. He was still around on Mondays, but for the first time since he accepted Christ, he was struggling, and he was disconnected. All right. Because you see, this is the most important thing, us staying connected this way. But Dave, pick up your orange string behind you. Steve Collins, pick up the orange string. Should be coming to you from both ways. Dave, you're still connected to the orange string. Hank, pick up the orange string. Stand up. Dave, stand up. Drew, the orange string is behind you. Stand up. So, the string between us is very tight. All right, I can tell you where each one of these guys are. And I'm connected by more than one strand. Not only am I connected this way, but these guys know where I am. Right? These guys know when I'm struggling above anybody else. Because not only are they my little brothers, but like Jared talked about yesterday, they're also my big brothers. I give them permission to speak truth into my life. I give them permission because I trust them wholeheartedly. And why do I trust them? Because I know that whatever they're going to say to me is going to be from a heart that is only concerned about my relationship with God and nothing else. And that's all that matters. My decisions that I will make will be tempered with these guys as I go to them and I ask advice. And it's about praying about that, not telling me what I should or should not do, but it's about praying about that. So I wanted to show you what this looks like. If I try to sever from Dave, I'm still connected to Hank. I'm still connected to Drew, and I'm still connected to Steve. I have to make an intentional act to disconnect from everybody by breaking the strands. But because of my relationship with them, they're going to come after me. They're not going to let me stay. They're not going to let me disconnect. Okay, guys, you can sit down. All right, you can let go of your strings, too. All right, so I tell you all of this. I tell you all of this because I know this. I was supposed to speak tonight. I know I was supposed to speak about this. All right. On top of everything else, my devotion this morning came in, and it was right where the question was. The guy tells a story. The lady calls him, and she says, "Have you lost your dogs? I have 2 stray dogs at my house." He says, "I recognized her voice. She was the next door neighbor." She said, "I just saw them out there by themselves." He replies, he runs around the house and he looks and says, "No, they're not my dogs. My dogs are all accounted for." He said, "Thank you so much for doing that." And he gave her several suggestions as to what she could do with the dogs. She said, "Oh, they're no problem. I've got a dog and they're playing all together, so I'll give it a few days and see what happens." He then responded and he went outside and he listened for the cry of the owner calling a name, but there was no one calling. He called the pound to see if somebody was looking for a lost puppy, and no one was looking. And he came to this conclusion. Then the thought came to me, what does it take for someone to go out of their way like she did? If I was lost, would somebody come looking? If I were crying alone and longing for a kind, gentle touch, I would hope that someone would stop and speak to me. If I were empty, running on nothing but a little energy I had left from the battle within myself, I would wish that someone would fill the void with words of kindness, caring, or concern. If I were stolen away by fear and confusion, if I were taken off to a place where darkness reigns and self-pity blinded reality, I would pray that I would be missed and rescued. So ask yourself the question today, would you? Would you take in the dogs? Would you look for a lost friend or even a stranger? Would you offer a kind word? Would you search long enough to find someone you love who was stolen away by fear and doubt? What good is faith without action? And we come full circle back to where we started. Faith without works is dead. Don't be a doer of the law. Don't be a hearer of the law, be a doer. So, application. Example, What are you going to do with that? So I'm going to ask you a really difficult thing. We've got 32 guys in here. All right? You may not even know everybody at the table, and I'm going to ask you to do one thing. All right? Will you, before you walk out of that table, will you get somebody else's phone number and say, this next week, I'm going to call or text you once. All right? I'm going to ask you the question, where are you with God? And y'all agree that I will be honest with you. If I'm struggling, you'll call me and you'll pray with me. And I'll make time to do the same for you. If you do this, even with a stranger, if you reach out, even to someone that's not here, because that's the second challenge, someone that's not here, will you commit to do that one thing? Send them a text and say, I am praying for you. How are you with God? And if they don't respond, or if they indicate they're struggling, pick up the phone and take the step. Leave no man behind. That's got to be our motto. It's got to be our creed. We walk arm in arm. We do this because we are stronger. 3 strands are stronger than 1.